Hello friends, welcome to Java Solutions Guide. So in this video, I'm going to explain you how we can launch a Windows EC2 instance. As you can see, these are the steps which are required to launch your Windows EC2 instance. Actually, you can use these steps to launch any kind of EC2 instance, which can be your Linux EC2 instance or your Ubuntu or Red Hat. So these are the common steps actually, but for the demo purpose I will go ahead with the Windows EC2 instance only. If you want to see the demo for Linux EC2 instance, then please have a look over one of my previous video. So let us see step by step how we can launch a Windows EC2 instance, and then I'll go ahead with the demo. So the first step is choosing Amazon machine image. So in this step, basically we are telling AWS that what kind of operating system or any other softwares we want on our EC2 instance. So how we will tell that? By choosing Amazon machine image, because the Amazon machine image has the operating system and other softwares which we want to install on our EC2 instance. So there are a lot of Amazon machine images, pre-built AMIs which are provided by AWS. Among them, we can choose the AMI which we want as per our requirements. Like in this case, we want to launch a Windows EC2 instance, then we will choose a AMI with Windows operating system. Okay, so the next step is choosing the instance type. So AWS provides a lot of instance types. We can choose among those as per our requirement. So basically in this step, what we are telling AWS is about the hardware configuration of our EC2 instance. So in the first step, choosing Amazon machine image, so there we told AWS about the operating system and the software part, and in this step we are telling about the hardware configurations, like how many virtual CPUs we want, how much RAM we want. So these kind of things we can provide in this step. Then the next step is configure instance details. So there are a lot of configurations we can do in this step, like we can choose in which VPC we want to launch our EC2 instance, under which subnet we want to launch our EC2 instance, and then there are some other miscellaneous configurations like termination protection or shutdown behavior, or how many instances we want to launch using this configuration. And then there is something called user data, where you can provide the script, like we are launching Windows EC2 instance, so we can provide batch script or PowerShell script which we want to execute at the start of the EC2 instance. So we can provide that in the user data. So that will be part of this step, configure instance details. So next one is add storage. So this is telling AWS that how much actually virtual hard disk I want on my EC2 instance, for my EC2 instance. So yeah, so you can add the root volume, and then you can add some additional volumes also. For root volume you have choice of three types of volumes. We'll see that in demo. And for the additional volumes you have more options. You have 5 volume types. Among them you can choose. And what is the root volume? Root volume is basically a volume where your AMI will be residing, and from which your EC2 instance will be booting. The next one is about adding tags. So we can provide some metadata about our EC2 instance. Like if I have if I'm making my EC2 instance as a web server, then I can name it as web server. So next one is configuring security groups. So what are security groups? Security groups are like firewalls. You can compare it with the firewalls, which will make sure that the particular kind of traffic is allowed to your EC2 instance. So you can control what kind of traffic is allowed or not allowed to your EC2 instance using security groups. And then the last part is, while launching you will get the option to download the key pair. Basically EC2 uses public cryptography, where you store the private key on your system and public key store on the EC2 instance. And then while connecting to your EC2 instance, you can use your private key and you can generate a password out of it, and then you can use that password to connect to your EC2 instance using RDP. So these were the steps involved. So now let us go to the demo part. Okay, as you can see, I have already logged into the AWS console, and then for launching a new Windows EC2 instance, I need to go to services and then go to under compute. I need to go to EC2, and then we will basically land to the EC2 dashboard where you can see all the details about the EC2, like if there is any EC2 instance running currently in this particular region. So because there is no EC2 instance running, so it's giving 0. Is there any dedicated host? Are there any volumes, key pairs, etc.? So a lot of information which is related to EC2 you can see on this dashboard. To launch a new EC2 instance, you just need to go to a little bit down, and as you can see here, there is a launch instance button and you need to go to launch instance. So once you click on the launch instance, you will land to this page where you need to choose an Amazon machine image. So this is basically the step one which we discussed already. So choosing an Amazon machine image, where we will tell AWS that which operating system and which softwares we want on our EC2 instance. So by choosing a particular AMI, so there, as you can see, there are a lot of AMIs available, like for Linux operating system, for Red Hat, for Ubuntu, for Windows. So you can choose the operating system AMI as per your requirements. And because this demo is for Windows EC2 instance, so I'll choose the Windows specific AMI. So I'll go ahead with this AMI, and then we land to the next step, which is about choosing an instance type. As you can see here also, we discussed that choosing an instance type. This step is basically about the hardware configuration. So basically we are going to tell AWS that which instance type we want to use. Like there are a lot of instance types. As you can see here, general purpose is there, compute optimized, GPU instances, memory optimized, storage optimized. So there are a lot of instance types, and depending on the your requirements, like if your application is compute heavy, you can go ahead with the compute optimized, and accordingly you can choose your instances. And for this demo purpose, I'll go ahead with the general purpose, which is a free tier eligible T2 micro. Basically it's a free tier eligible, and it comes up with the one virtual CPU and 1 GB of memory RAM, and then instance storage is EBS, and network performance is low to moderate, and it supports IPv6 also. And as you can see here, you can click on this on the show hide columns, and you can see some other details also which are currently not shown here. So like if you want to see the physical processor, you just tick on this, and it will show you the physical processor also. Or if you want to see the processor architecture, like if it is a 32-bit or 62-bit, you can see here. So let's move on to the next step, which is configure instance details. So in this step, as we discussed already, what we are going to do, we are going to choose VPC in which we want to launch our EC2 instance, and subnet we are going to choose, and some other configurations. And also we can provide the script data which we want to execute at the start of the EC2 instance. So let's see the configuration part. So the first one is number of instances. So I think it's straightforward. So it is one. Then one EC2 instance will be launched. If it is two, then two EC2 instances will be launched. So let's put it to 2 so that we can see that more than one instances can be launched using the same configuration. Next we'll see network. So in which VPC we want to launch our EC2 instance, we can choose here. So it will show you the list of the VPCs. uh, which you have created along with the default VPC. So you can choose the VPC in which you want to launch your EC2 instance. So I'll go ahead with the default VPC, and then you need to choose the subnet. So like under that VPC, you can go ahead with the particular subnet where you want to launch your EC2 instance. If you don't choose a subnet, then AWS will basically put your EC2 instance in one of the subnets. Auto assigns public IP. So basically it requests a public IP address from Amazon's public IP address pool to make your instance reachable from the internet. So in most cases, the public IP address is associated with the instance until it's stopped or terminated, after which it's no longer available for you to use. So basically, you are here going to assign a public IP to your EC2 instance, because if you want to access your EC2 instance from internet, then it should have a public IP. With the private IP, you will not be able to access your EC2 instance outside your VPC. So in that case, if you want to access your EC2 instance from internet, you can make this option enable. And also one point to notice that once you stop your EC2 instance, your public IP will uh, change on restarting your EC2 instance. So if you want static public IP address, then you can go ahead with the elastic IP. That we'll discuss in some future video, but you need to know that if you stop and start your EC2 instance, your public IP will be changing. So next one, let us see the shutdown behavior, which is like stop and terminate. So what does it tell? It tells that once you have launched your EC2 instance, and then if you shut down your EC2 instance, then what will happen? Whether it will stop or whether it will terminate. So if you choose stop here, so in that case, if you will shut down your EC2 instance after launching, of course, then your EC2 instance will stop. And if you choose terminate here, then if you will shut down your EC2 instance, then it will terminate. And once it's terminated, you will not be able to connect to that instance again. But if it is stopped, you can start it again. So make sure that you choose the right option. Next thing I want to discuss is enable termination protection. This is again a very important thing. So if you want to protect your EC2 instance from accidental termination, so that someone doesn't terminate your EC2 instance accidentally, so you can enable this option. By choosing this option, nobody will be able to terminate your instance from the AWS console, because if somebody will try to terminate your instance, then it will not allow. Basically the button will be disabled. So I have a separate video for that, enabling disabling termination protection. You can have a look over that video. Next one is tenancy, which is basically where your EC2 instance is going to run. So if you choose shared, which means your EC2 instance is going to run on a shared hardware, which will be shared between the other AWS customers as well. If you choose dedicated, then your EC2 instance will be running on a shared hardware, but that will be shared only between the EC2 instances of your account, not of the other AWS customers. And if you choose dedicated host, then your EC2 instance will be launched on a physical dedicated server. So no other EC2 instance will be sharing that physical machine. So I'll go ahead with the shared instance here, and then uh, this is the section where you can add the user data, as we discussed here, that any script which we want to execute at the start of the EC2, we can put it here. So I'll discuss this in one of my next videos in detail. So let's just note here that we can put a script here which will be executed once you launch your EC2 instance. So this will be executed only once when you start your EC2 instance, and you can make it run every time as well, but the default behavior is it will run only at the launch of the EC2 instance. So now let's go to add storage. So as you can see here, the root volume, you can have three volume types. Among them you can choose whichever you want as per your requirements, and then you can choose the delete on termination, which is by default true, which means that your root volume will be deleted once you terminate your EC2 instance, which means that you can lose the data also if there is any data on this device. And also you can add additional volumes also, and for that you have more options in the volume types, so you can choose the volume type here. And I'm not going to choose for this demo. And also you note that encryption by default is not there, so which means that data on your volume will not be encrypted by default. Next, go to add tags, and here you can add the tags, like say I want to give this some name to my server, my EC2 instance. I'll say name, and then I'll say dev server, and then I'll go ahead with the security groups. So this is about allowing particular kind of traffic to your EC2 instance. And here we are going to launch a Windows EC2 instance, and as you can see, the rule here says that allow the remote desktop protocol access, RDP access, on this port from anywhere on the internet. So anyone from the internet can connect to your uh, RDP using our RDP to your instance, but of course he should have the keys, the private key from which a password can be generated, and then he or she can connect to your EC2 instance. If you want to have a more restricted access, you can put the source IP from which you want to give the access. So for this demo, I'll go ahead with this, and then I'll go and click review and launch, and then launch. And here it will ask you to download the key pair. So basically EC2 uses public key cryptography, so wherein you have a key pair. Why we call it key pair? Because it's a combination of public key and private key. So the public key is stored on the EC2 instance, and private key you will use to connect to your EC2 instance. So this key is required when you are going to connect to your EC2 instance. So let's download this key. So I'll say create a new key pair, and I'll give it a name, my new Windows key pair. Maybe I will use a camel case, that will be better. Okay, so then let's download the key, and the key is downloaded, and then click on launch instances, so which will basically launch your instances, and click on view instances. And as you can see, there are two instances which are going to be launched. Currently they are in the pending state. It should be running in few minutes, or maybe seconds. Let's refresh it. And so the one of them is already running, as you can see. Let's click on refresh again, and yeah, so the second one is also running. And one thing you need to look is status checks are here, still it is showing as initializing. So before you start connecting to your EC2 instance, make sure that this status check is green. So once it's green or initialized, then only you will be able to connect to your EC2 instance. If you will try before that, you will get connection timeout error. So that's all I wanted to show in this video. So we have successfully launched EC2 instances, and as you can see, we can see two EC2 instances because we mentioned number of instances as 2 in the configure instance details section. So if you would have given 1, it would have launched one instance. So that's all for this video. In the next video I'll explain how we can connect to this Windows EC2 instance. So thank you for watching, and if you like the video, please give it a like and subscribe the channel for more such videos, and see you in the next video.